Welcome in, everybody, to this morning's Coffee and Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. Blake Monroe had to take the son to the dentist today, so he's going to rejoin us tomorrow. But for now, it's going to be Jerry and myself. Jerry, Longhorns won some gold medals over the weekend. That's good news for Texas fans everywhere. And then, I'll tell you another thing that's happening right now is the Longhorns get ready to go back to practice on the football field. They had a practice since we've last had a live stream, you and I together. They practiced Saturday night, and then they practice again this morning at 9 a.m. And I'll be out there as well as C.J. Vogel, John Burroughs, etc. And so it should be a lot of fun. We're going to take your, as usual, we're going to take your, we'll take your questions, talk a little football, talk whatever you want to, including recruiting. We got some recruiting news and notes coming up this weekend. Guys getting ready to make decisions. A number of different aspects get going here this morning. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, John Donovan, over at longhornwealth.net as well. Hey, Jerry, big weekend. Scottie Scheffler came from 5 behind yesterday to win the gold medal for the U.S. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I thought that was huge. Obviously, for Scott, Olympic golf is kind of fun from the singles format because it's all or nothing, right? You're playing for medals, not money. And on that last day, man, everybody's just throwing it at the pins, firing at pins. And Scottie shot 29 coming in, and obviously good enough to get it done. Great to see his emotion. I asked you yesterday, and then I asked on the Longhorn live stream, I'm like, where does he rank? Like, there's a top 5 Highland Park athletes of all time. And he's clearly now in that group with 2 Masters, gold medal, headed to the World Golf Hall of Fame, not even close to being done with his resume. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where he ends up on the Highland Park Mount Rushmore. I have a feeling he may end up number 1. I mean, there's Clayton Kershaw, Doak Walker. There's some great athletes that have come through Highland Park, but if where Scottie's headed, it appears, he may end up number 1. So congrats to Scottie. All the Longhorns, Julian Alfred, obviously in the 100. She got a shot at the 200, I believe. Ryan Krauser, 3rd straight shot put gold medal. That's a record. And he is Mr. Shot Put, obviously out of the Portland area, and competed at Texas before going pro. And then we have football this week, guys. And by the way, thanks for tell us where you're checking in from. Be safe in Florida. In South Georgia, I saw somebody checking in from Fort Lauderdale. They were on the dirty side of the storm, but not the dirtiest. That Tampa area up through Central Florida got mashed yesterday and is going to get mashed today. So be safe out there, man, and your cars on the road. But Bobby, big week of football practice. I think it gets real this week. We had fun reporting on it last week. It was great to be out there. Thank you, Texas, for the hour open media window. But this week is when it gets real because it's full pads and your defensive line starts really getting a chance to compete. And I think this rotation by after Saturday's scrimmage, the first scrimmage, will start to become a little more clear after this week. It's a big week on the defensive line for the Texas Longhorns and the guys competing.
I think it's a big week overall. I mean, I'm reminded of when I grew up going to college or going to high school. Your first week of college was about getting your syllabus, then getting used to the professor, and then the next week you really started class, right? The first week was kind of blow off, figure it all out, that kind of thing. I'm not saying everybody blew it off last week, by the way. Silas Bolden clearly did not take that route, by the way.
He blew it out.
Yeah, he blew it out early. He's already ready for the midterm. So I think that my point being that you're right in that it kind of gradually builds up, especially at certain positions where contact is more important. And that's obviously the case at offensive and defensive line. We'll see a bunch of those today. I do have one I want to go ahead and get to, Jerry. This is one of the old school guys, and he deserves to be mentioned. 26 days away, right? So who's the best number 26 in the history of the University of Texas? Some people might say Johnny Lamb Jones. And as we're 26 days away from playing against Colorado State, and as we're talking about the Olympics, Johnny Lamb Jones won a gold medal in the 4x1, Jerry. as going into the University of Texas in 1976 out of Lampasas. That's why he was called Lamb. There was also another running back named Johnny Ham Jones at the same time, and he was from Hamlin, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So good stuff there. Ready for all of this to get going. And we're going to talk a little football here this morning. We will be somewhat abbreviated this morning simply because I've got to get going around 8:50 out to the practice field. And Blake cannot join us this morning because, as I mentioned earlier, he's going. Jerry, also, I just got to say this. A lot of people telling us what coffee they're drinking. Look at this. Can y'all see this very well? Oh, there it is. Kirby Lane this morning, baby.
There you go.
I had the Austin institution this morning with our intern, John. Had a good time there as well. All right, we want to say thank you to our sponsor on the day. That's John Donovan of Longhorn Wealth Management. We really appreciate him and his ongoing sponsorship. As a proud UT alum, John is a proud UT Texas Exes Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are all UT grads as well. John's a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. August is National Make a Will Month. So Longhorn Wealth wants to offer everyone a free 90-minute wealth consultation to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you review your own estate and legacy plans, as well as the more general desire to secure your own financial future. So to schedule your free private consultation, simply call the Longhorn Wealth team, 972-707-4900, or go online at www.longhornwealth.net. Jerry, recruiting-wise right now, let's flip into that because Khalid Lockett, the wide receiver out of the Metroplex area, expected to make a decision here in a couple days. It's August 5th now. He is expected to announce on Wednesday. DJ Sanders, big defensive lineman out of Belleville, just about an hour south here, hour and a half south of Austin, getting ready to make his decision on August 8th. Where is Texas situated right now, and any other late-breaking recruiting news you can bring to the table for folks?
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it right now. We're in a dead period, first of all, so no face-to-face contact, no visits until August 31st. So dead period, unless you have a home football game. Then you have a 48-hour window. But we're in the dead period of recruiting right now. So these coaches are pretty much hyper-focused on the season with the understanding that kids are making decisions. Khalid Lockett, nothing's changed on our end. I think we remain pretty much the same on that. Texas is feeling pretty good about this recruitment going into the August 7th decision. We'll see what he announces. That's going to be around 1 p.m. Central Time. Alabama, LSU, A&M, Florida State, USC, the other players in the game there. That's where he made 6 official visits. Obviously, his father's from Los Angeles, mother's grew up in Louisiana and Mississippi. I don't think that'll have an impact on his decision, obviously. And I remain the same. When DeCorian Moore committed to Oregon, I think that upped Texas' chances for Khalid Lockett. So I think Texas had some really good, strong conversations, Steve Sarkisian and Chris Jackson, with Lockett and his family in the last couple of weeks, and I've heard that's continued. DJ Sanders, look, there's cautious optimism on August 8th. I think that's the way to approach DJ Sanders' recruitment because he doesn't communicate as well with coaches as much, not as well, as much. He runs his own race. He's in his own lane in recruiting. A lot of these guys are in contact daily with the college coaches. He's not one of those guys. So the colleges, Texas, Michigan, and A&M, they're kind of left wondering at times throughout this recruitment where they stand, where things are at, kind of where DJ's head's at in recruiting. And there's nothing wrong with what DJ's doing. He's just in his own lane doing his own thing. So he just handles recruitment a little different than most kids do nowadays. It'll be an August 8th evening, night type of decision we expect right now. We'll see if that holds, but there's some cautious optimism on the Texas side. I think inside the circle, I think they prefer closer to home. Obviously, as an uncle that lives in the Detroit area, and that's helped get Michigan in the door and get them on campus twice. But I think close to home could win out here. We'll see. Again, cautious optimism, but with this recruitment, I'm more of a wait until he announces because it's just the communication just isn't as much So I think the colleges have been left wondering a little bit throughout this process. We'll see if that changes here in the next day or two. But then Nathan Tillman is August 10th, not a guy that, look, I think visited Texas in the midweek in June. I think that's more headed to Utah, TCU right now. We'll see. Maybe he picks up the phone and calls Texas. But I think he's been in contact with the others more.
Good stuff there, Jerry. I also want to mention somebody's asking also about what happened to that big German recruit, the young defensive lineman that is living in Southern California. He committed last week, by the way, to Georgia. Texas finished second there in that recruitment. So tough loss on the defensive line, but it wasn't one that Texas necessarily thought they were going to get ever if Georgia went all in, because Georgia was the leader at the outset. I really believe, Jerry, we talked about this, the nonstop flights from Atlanta to Berlin. Talk about things you didn't think would matter in recruiting. The nonstop flight from Atlanta to Berlin, that may have played a role in that young man's recruitment as well, right? All right. Hey, we got some questions coming in and that I want to go through. Let's start with this one because it is one of the talk of the weekend. Barb Boy, ARPG, can you guys talk about the Michigan rushing attack and how that might look against the DL and the defenses as a whole? But I want to add in this part, Michigan also in the news over the weekend because of 52 deleted texts between Connor Stallions and their head coach, Sharon Moore, allegedly being called for a number of major violations at Michigan right now. Boy, that it does not look good on the surface. And from what the NCAA is alleging, the cheating with Connor Stallions was widespread. 20-plus games he scouted, or people that worked for Michigan scouted.
Including the sidelines of Central Michigan. That's now confirmed.
Yeah, including the sidelines of Michigan. Now, let's talk about this first. This question for Barboy first, and then digress into what Michigan did and maybe what we think proper penalties should be for something like that. So can you guys talk about Michigan's rushing attack and how that might look against the DL and defense as a whole? Rod Babers, I thought, Jerry, has got a really intelligent way of thinking about it. And so does Steve Sarkisian, because Rod borrowed it from Sark. We could see 7 offensive linemen on the field at the same time.
No doubt.
So not only will they have Colston Loveland at one tight end, they'll have a double tight end with an offensive lineman, and then an offensive lineman lined up right off the line of scrimmage as well. They're not against running those extreme alignments to try to create running lanes. They want to batter you. That is what their offense is based off of. They'll do that and then just a little bit of play action. If you can stop the run and force their new quarterback to be a passer, not unlike what you did a year ago in Tuscaloosa, I really think that it's the same formula for success in Ann Arbor. Stop the run and score enough points to win. Do you think Texas can do that, Jerry, given that there's no Byron Murphy, no Tavondre Sweat?
Well, I think Texas will have to game it up a little different this year. That's for sure, especially early in the season. But I'll say this, first down run defense is going to be massive for Texas in that game. Looking ahead, massive. If Michigan gets ahead of the run game chains, which means 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7, then I think you're going to see them just try to pound it, run as much clock as they can, limit possessions, keep it low-scoring football game, wear on Texas as the game moves along. RPO enough with Alex Orji. But I think everybody's going to be part of the run game. Like I agree with what Rod was talking about. I could see Michigan going super jumbo sets. I could see them with quarterback run game. I could see them doing everything against Texas to test them. And it's not just that they're playing Texas. I want to be clear about this. If they were playing Penn State week 2 at home, I think it's the same thing. Because they have a quarterback making his second start. They're going to want to try to control the game with the run game. They don't want to put the game in his arm early in his second career start. So I think Texas, it's being talked about because Texas lost Murphy and Sweat. But I think if Penn State rolled in, it'd be the same game plan. I think that's who Michigan's going to be early in the season. And so I just think that's who they are. So first down run defense is going to be massive for Texas. I really do believe that. That Texas has to get them in enough 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9s. If it's a 2nd and 6 game, that's not going to be as much fun for Texas. Those 2 yards make a big difference, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9 versus 2nd and 6, because then you get to the 3rd and 1, 2 situation, maybe versus the 3rd, 5 and 6 situation. That's going to be the key, is how many 3rd and mediums does this Texas defense get Michigan in where they have to make a decision?
I'll tell you that the thing that you get into that short yardage situation, they can also run that boot action with the tight end that is a really, really good player. Like there are very few tight ends right now I would take over what Texas is going to put out on the field right now. The Michigan tight end is one of them. I mean, he's a first round pick, probably the first tight end off the board. I mean, he's just a tremendous runner, pass catcher, good blocker, etc. He has got to be a focal point for them because their receiving core, it's not expected to be that good this year. Their passer, I don't know. He may be more accurate over the short range than the long range. But Jerry, let's talk before we get going and talk too much about the Connor Stallions thing. You feel good about where Texas goes into this game with Michigan overall?
I do. I think, look, to me, we've talked about this. Run defense and right side pass pro are going to be tested. Michigan will test Texas. Cam Williams and DJ Campbell, see how they are. DJ year 2, Cam Williams start 3 of his career. How are they in tandem? They're going to be tested. The 2 areas that I kind of think Texas has to prove themselves the most this year to have the season they want to have, they're going to be tested. Secondary, probably not tested as much against Michigan. But right side offensive line and pass pro and run defense are both going to be tested against Michigan. So I think, look, you've had a long time. It's similar to Alabama. Sark's had a long time to prepare for this game. And you don't overlook Colorado State. You know they're going to throw it all over the yard. They're going to put the ball in the air a lot. But you know you should win that football game. So there's been a lot of prep for this Michigan game. It sets up so similar to Alabama last year. I think they'll go in with a really good game plan. I actually think the biggest thing is you can load the box if you're Texas and play that game defensively. On the offensive side of the ball, your right side really does have to be strong in pass protection. If not, it can throw off the timing. So I'm very interested to see DJ Campbell and Cam Williams work in tandem on that right side because Michigan has the talent to exploit that weakness if there is one. And that will be the first time they've been tested as a tandem. At Kansas State was Cam Williams' first start. I get it. Colorado State is what they are, but this is a total different level of talent that's going to be testing them on the right side of the offensive line. If they pass that test, that is going to be very good for the Texas Longhorn season.
All right, Jerry, we're going to say thank you to our sponsors today. I'm going to start with thanking Babbel. Right now, you can get 60% off your subscription at babbel.com/on-Texas. For those of you unaware, I am currently attempting to learn Spanish. 1 in 5 Americans have learn a new language on their bucket list. That's what I've got right now. If that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel. Did you know learning actually makes a sound? It's true. It is the sound of learning with Babbel. If in 2024 you get a little bit better every day, and this is what I try to do, 5 to 10 minutes a day. When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Here's a special deal for our listeners right now. Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/on-Texas. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/on-Texas, spelled BABBEL.com/on-Texas. Rules and restrictions apply. Jerry, I'm going to keep it with you now and let you read the one that a lot of people wait around for in the morning here. These guys.
Look, the Babel read, let's call that Ricky Henderson hitting leadoff. Okay. That was a good one. Now it's time for Aaron Judge to step to the plate and take a mighty swing. It's 2024. It's time to talk about beard and balls. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? We're not talking college basketball here. Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS at manscaped.com. But look, first up, this is your ball's new best friend, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Say goodbye to endless passes. This trimmer gets it right the first time, cutting through the bushiest of bushes effortlessly while being gentle on your skin in your delicate places. Manscaped, on Texas, all caps.
Good stuff, Jerry. Jerry Hamilton, folks. Jerry Hamilton. Now, how should the NCAA manscape Michigan?
Yeah, big time. I mean, I don't think they have enough 5.0s for this one. I'm interested in two things. There's two things that has my interest around this, Bobby. Is Sharon Moore coaching or suspended by the time Texas plays?
I mean, Michigan coaches have been suspended like 3 years in a row now.
Right. And
I mean,
my other thing is, do the wins get vacated? And you can hoist your trophy, you can have your banner, but the NCAA did vacate the wins for Rick Pitino's Louisville team. They've done so multiple times before. That's my two big questions with Michigan, because I thought last year they shouldn't have been able to play in the playoffs, because I thought it was so egregious what happened that was almost suspendable. And you hate that for the kids, but because they really didn't have a part in it, but that was so egregious to me.
No, it was like SMU's death penalty type of malfeasance. You know, you had guys after being told, "Hey, don't do that," they went and did it anyways and kept doing it after they were. Look, I feel really strongly about this. I mean, the problem, like paying players in recruiting, has happened since the dawn of time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Texas. I'm talking about across the universe. You know, I was talking to some older guys the other day. The old $100 handshake. You know, that's been going on forever. Coaches going out and knowing legally that they could not go scout another opponent, yet creating a whole structure and alignment around doing so with multiple parties, while the coaches apparently knew, and they knew it was wrong. That's just unheard of. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know whether they should vacate their wins. I haven't really thought about it in that vein. I was a little, I thought it was unfair, obviously. I mean, he's over there on the Central Michigan sideline, to your point, playing against Michigan State to try to get Michigan State signals prior to the Michigan State game. I mean, and that's their rival, dude.
Yeah.
It's not very becoming of the University of Michigan. I'll tell you that much.
And here's the third piece that I think is big, because what matters most to Texas fans is September 7th. Where's this team going to be at? Are they going to rally around this, or are they not? Because that's, to me, is an interesting question. And the simple response is, they're going to rally around this. But did they rally around it last year and got the title and got it done? Because all the leaders, the strength and conditioning coach, who you see more than anybody, Jim Harbaugh, a lot of other coaches, they're gone. Sharon Moore is here. Yes, he rebuilt the staff, but there's guys with a lot of NFL draft status on the line. So I'm not saying guys are not going to play well, but what I am saying is they better have one hell of a leadership council on this team, because this is a different deal. To me, they rallied around it last year. and they got it done. They went and won the national championship, and they were the best team last year. They went and won the national championship. But a lot of those guys are gone. So what is this team? Yes, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, Kendall Grant, some of those guys. But is it the motivation going to be the same as it was last year? That's going to be a huge question, because now there's more questions these guys are going to have to answer on a daily basis leading up to the Texas game. Where is this team's head going to be at that game? I think it'll be interesting to see, because it's not like last year where they were all in on one goal and they felt like they had the best team in the country. I'm not sure they think that this year.
I don't think they are, is the reality. Hey, before we go any further, we need to talk a little bit too about something that was just beautiful that happened on Saturday. We had mentioned it ad nauseum, but it's okay to go back and talk about this. Steve McMichael enters the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday, number 76 for the Longhorns, number 76 in the NFL for the Chicago Bears primarily. From his convalescence bed, essentially in his home in Illinois, he accepted the Golden Jacket from some of the greats of the game of all time, Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, the big pass rusher, Jimbo Covert, big offensive lineman, a bunch of his teammates. A week ago, Saturday, the University of Texas held its own kind of celebration among his peers. Randy McMichael was out there, Les Koenig, a number of different guys out there last week over at Schultz's celebrating Steve McMichael and his route to Canton, Ohio, the latest Longhorn to be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. Very happy for him there. All right, we're going to get to some questions now and comments from folks. Let's get it going. Jerry, we got time for a few. Did we ever talk about that ridiculous ESPN list of top college football players since 2000 last week? We did briefly. I laughed at it the minute they had Baker Mayfield over Vince Young. I mean, talk about revisionist history. I mean, what did Baker Mayfield ever win other than the Heisman? I mean, he won the Big 12, I guess, right? I mean, I felt like it was a legitimately bad list, Jerry.
That was just bad. I wasn't even really. I wanted to bring it up to make fun of it, but I really wasn't going to comment on it. This is very simple. This is a very simple thing. Put Baker Mayfield on the Texas 05 team. Do they beat USC? The answer is no. So let's move on. And then if you put VY on, well, you don't want to do it, Texas fans. But if you thought about VY on the Oklahoma team, the best Oklahoma team that Mayfield was on, would they have won the national championship? Maybe they outscore Alabama or Clemson. Pretty simple. That's the simple way of looking at that one. That one's not even close. That was just dumb.
Right. Hey, this is a good question as well. And I want to go back to some football here. Brian St. Clair, who will have more sacks this season, in your opinion, Trey Moore or Anthony Hill? I got to say this. So talking to some people on Saturday night after the scrimmage, or not scrimmage, but after the workouts, two things came up. One, Anthony Hill looks like $1 million. We saw him in person ourselves. This was from new onlookers that were there on Saturday evening saying the same thing. Trey Moore has, quote, been a problem for multiple offensive linemen this training camp. He is, and I posted an article, Jerry, this morning on ontexasfootball.com. If you get a chance, go over there and check it out. He has been a real problem for folks so far in training camp. And he is not the best looking defensive end in the group at all. I mean, you would not pick him out of the lineup to say he's going to be one of the guys that's going to be a force on this defense. But I'm telling you, every time I ask somebody who's looked good or who's done well, Trey Moore's name comes up each and every time.
Yeah, I think Trey Moore
between those two, Jerry.
Yeah, Trey Moore and Colin Simmons. Look, it needs to be Trey Moore. Bottom line, if it's not, then Trey Moore probably hadn't had the season that he was expected to have. I don't see Anthony Hill being a double 9 or 10 sack guy. I think I don't think that's what Anthony Hill is going to need to be called upon to do this year. And I think Texas is really working with Anthony Hill, as I've talked about, to be more a complete linebacker, play in space more, right? Do some of those things within the scheme. So the sack leaders need to be on this team, need to be Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, and Ethan Burke. If those three guys are your top three in sacks, I think the season's gone according to plan.
All right, Trace Little here. Everyone thought with the loss of Bijan, we would see a drop-off at running back. Brooks dispelled this notion. Should we be prepped for a less consistent running game? I don't think it has to do with Brooks versus Bijan versus Baxter and Blue. I think it could be dealing with who they're going up against the run in the SEC. Do you agree with that, Jerry? Like, I think that's a bigger issue than any drop-off you might see from Jonathan Brooks to Ced Baxter and Jaden Blue. What do you think?
Yeah, so look, for me with the run game this year, it's all around the offensive line. The offensive line is projected to be, a lot of people projected to be the number 2 offensive line in the country to Georgia, which I agree Georgia is by far number 1. If Texas plays up to that level on the offensive line, then that's going to tell the story with the Texas run game. Because if they play to that level, Texas will be able to run the ball in the red zone better. So I don't look at the running backs. I look at the offensive line. Look, Bijan's the best back Texas has had since when? I mean, go back. Jamal Charles, Ricky Williams, whoever you want to say. That he's in that conversation with those guys, certainly. But the offensive line has grown up over time. I think that's where the key is. Texas is going to have really good backs. I think Texas, the one thing about the backs this year that's interesting to me is I think out of the backfield, catching the football, this is going to be the best group of backs Steve Sarkisian's had in Texas. And because I think now Bijan gave you some downfield threat, but I think Jaden Blue has a downfield threat in the run out of the running back position. I think Trey Weisner has a little bit of that as well. So Texas is going to do it different. I think we focus on the run games, the carries and the yards per carry, yards after contact. I think the way Texas is going to maximize the running backs this year is through the run game and the pass game. So I kind of looking at this a little different as far as the roster running back room makeup. But for me, it's all about the offensive line this year. If they play up to the expectations, then they're going to have a tremendous year running the football. Now, they have to do it against Michigan's 2 guys who are first and second rounder at worst. Deion Walker out of Kentucky, who's a beast. Georgia has got 3 or 4 or 5 draft picks. They may not be first rounders. McMichael Williams may be, but they have a number of NFL draft picks. A&M's going to have a number of NFL draft picks on that defensive line as well. So this offensive line is going to hold the keys this year more than the running back position. Because, look, these guys are really good players. But and this sounds obvious, there isn't a Ricky Williams or a Bijan that can just go make yards on their own, period. The offensive line has to do their job to open up holes and help these guys this year. Texas doesn't have guys that can go make 7 without a play being blocked. Plays have to be blocked.
Trace Little, thank you for the super chat very much. A couple of comments coming in on Steve McMichael. Colton Martinez, so happy for Steve as a Longhorn band member. I hope the Freer band made it. Yes, they did. We announced this last week. I got a really, really nice letter from one of the board members of the Freer Independent School District and saying that the guys, that the kiddos made it up there and were able to perform. Thanks to many of you who contributed on that. I was glad that we were able to help make that happen big time. Casey has a good point here on the NCAA and Michigan, Jerry. The NCAA can't strip the title because it's actually not handed out by the NCAA. They can vacate other wins, although that is kind of meaningless. I would agree with that, except it's not meaningless in one thing, and that's all-time wins. Texas is one of those programs, along with Alabama and Michigan, that's fighting for that all-time wins situation.
Yeah, I will say that, but I want to add to this. There's a difference there, man. If somebody vacates your victories, people don't look at you as the national champion that year. They just don't. While it can't be legally taken away, you can hang your banner, you can have your parade and all that BS. If your wins are vacated, you have an asterisk forever, and people do not consider you the national champion that year except your own fan base. That's just part of the game.
Got it. All right. I want to say thank you again to John Donovan. John has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes board member, and he is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas Exes chapter, where I'll be speaking this coming Saturday at their Welcome to the SEC preseason football kickoff happy hour. So reach out to John for all the details on that event. In addition, John is a certified financial planner with more than 30 years of experience and expertise in helping Longhorn families maximize their wealth, minimize their taxes, and secure their legacy. So since August is National Make-A-Will Month, John wants to offer each of you a private 90-minute complimentary wealth consultation to make sure your will and overall estate and legacy planning is properly in place, and to discuss how you can truly secure your overall financial future. So simply call the Longhorn Wealth Team 972-707-4900 or go online at www.longhornwealth.net to secure your free consultation this month. Hook 'em from John and the group at longhornwealth.net. Jerry, I'm about 2 minutes from having to leave here because I got to get over to practice. It's going to be a short.
I'm headed to. I'm not going to say where, but I'm headed to high school practice after the show. We are getting going in the state of Texas today, so I'm hoping to go get you guys a good interview for later. Our producer Matthew is having a little hurricane issues in Florida, so we'll try to get the interview from later today.
Hey, Matthew's moving to Texas, by the way, this month. This is his last week in Florida, working for us remotely. He's actually moving to Texas next week, and he gets a goodbye present of a hurricane rolling through Florida. UT boy, I did not see your question. I'm sorry, but we got to get out of here. Thank you for the super chat. I'll make it up to you next time around, buddy. Don't worry about that. Jerry, last thing before we go is David Keith Williams has a question for you. We made it to another week. What is your most updated information about the most important aspect of Longhorn football recruiting, the defensive tackle / nose tackle position? Josiah Sharma committed to Texas. That was a big one for Texas. DJ Sanders up on the 8th, right?
Yeah, DJ Sanders up on the 8th. Texas, Michigan, A&M on that one. Then you look, Texas remains in contact with Myron Charles, a couple of guys like that. I could see Texas making a run at Chase Sims from Richmond Randall, committed to A&M, really good player. Derry Norris, who's committed at Georgia Tech. I think he'll get a senior look again from Texas. And there'll be a couple other guys that are going to pop up. Just my pure opinion. So maybe in the state of Georgia, in that southeast region, that maybe are committed elsewhere that Texas likes, but they never got them on campus. Kenny Baker didn't have a time to go out and really see them in person. That could happen this year. That could change the calculus. But Texas will continue to work on some of those guys committed elsewhere. We'll see what DJ Sanders does on the 8th. Obviously, Texas is going to try to get Myron Charles on campus this season. All right.
That's going to do it for this afternoon, or for this morning, excuse me. Make sure you check out ontexasfootball.com. I'll have some news and notes from practice up there. Right now, become an OTF OG. Join our club, man. Come visit us on the message boards. Jerry, myself, Blake, everybody out there, CJ as well. He'll be here in a second for practice as well, and we'll have more for you there on texasfootball.com. Again, join the club. Have some fun. We appreciate you guys. Sorry, this is an abbreviated version this morning of Coffee and Football, but practice comes first for me. I got to get out there and do it so I can bring you guys information later today. For Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks to not only John Donovan, as well as Manscaped and Babbel for sponsoring today's show. Hook 'em, everybody. I'll see you after practice.